Welcome back. We're so excited to have Michael Modelewski join us again. We're actually going to be talking about the first port in our stop on this amazing Alaskan cruise that we're going to be doing September 3rd through 10th, 2022. And I wanted to bring in the expert. He's been doing this for a long time. He's totally amazing. We met him on our last cruise and you're going to love him. So Michael, take it away.
Hi, Kim.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you again. Just to do a little segue, when your ship leaves Seattle, 4 o'clock Saturday, you're going to do a sea day on Sunday. And then you're also going to do a half a day sea day, which is now what we're talking about is your Monday. So get up early, super early, for one very big reason is from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday morning, as the ship is going toward Juneau, usually slowly, because they have gone 900 miles from Seattle to get you to Juneau. And most of that is Saturday night when you leave Seattle and all day Sunday. The Crown Princess will be going wide open at least 20 knots. So Monday morning at about 4 a.m., they leave the open ocean. The ship cuts into what's known as the Inside Passage. And that's where you'll cruise the rest of the week. So if there is any rough weather or big waves on that sea day on Sunday, that's going to end about 4 a.m. on Monday. So reassure people, because a lot of times when they're getting a little bit bounced around or they might feel a little bit seasick on Sunday, if it is rough, I can just hear a husband poking her wife in the ribs and saying, "Whose idea was this? I'm not going to be able to get out of bed all week." Reassure everybody, there's only one day if it is rough. And that only happens about 1 or 2 times in the summer. Most of the times, as you said perfectly, you're in this beautiful little cradle rocking you to sleep.
Yep.
So Monday morning, calm water. We go through an area called Stevens Passage. And this is where humpback whales and killer whales hang out because it's very narrow. There's strong currents in there that lift the small fish, the herring, the capelin in the currents, and the whales do a lot of their feeding at Stevens Passage. So from 6 a.m., you want to be on the outer decks, your balcony, go to the tip of the ship, which we talked about in the last segment, because you get that 180-degree view forward. The naturalist, most likely, or at least the first officer up on the bridge, will announce. For instance, what I like to do is put an imaginary clock on top of the ship. So the bow or the front of the ship is 12 o'clock, the back or stern of the ship is 6 o'clock. And then that way, the announcements can give you incremental time positions of where to exactly look if whales do pop up. So if you're up on the tip of the ship, you get that 180-degree view. Maybe we're starting to see some whales a mile away at 1 o'clock. And then they'll constantly adjust which side of the ship to be on, depending how we have to maneuver around the whales. Great thing about Princess Cruises is they do not encroach on the wildlife. This is their home. We're just passing through. So they will give them a buffer, but many times the whales will come to us. They'll come close to the ship. And that's their choice rather than us trying to chase them down, which never happens with Princess. So there's a great opportunity Monday morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And I would say 50% of the time we get breaching humpbacks. So what happens in nature is we're so spoiled with, everything happening fast and remote control in our hand and bip, bip, bip. But nothing will happen for 10, 15 minutes. And unannounced, all of a sudden, a 60-foot whale is breaching full body length out of the water, 50 yards off the port side. And most people don't get the picture because they're too stunned. And it's almost like in slow motion. And 2 summers ago in Stevens Passage, on our way up to Juneau, we had what I called a serial breacher. And it's usually the teenage whales that are the most active. This whale breached 17 times in a row.
Wow.
It was so funny. I was having dinner later that day, and a woman came up to me and she said, "You lied to us today about that whale." And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You were up on the bridge with a joystick, and that whale was a Disney automatron, wasn't it? And you kept pushing that joystick and pushing that whale out of the water." And I go, I wish it was that easy. But that's what can happen, and and you also catch a sunrise. It's usually off our starboard right bow, and it can be magnificent to see that gold sun. And again, putting that path, gold and pink, down on the water that the ship is following with the bow. So it's worth sunrise pictures. Whales, we get a lot of Dall porpoise, D-A-L-L, named after the naturalist explorer William Dall. And they are black and white, 6 feet long. Everybody thinks they're killer whales at first, but they swim at 30 miles an hour, and they're in a big school, and the water's so clear, no matter what deck you're on, you look down and you see the black and white vitality. I mean, the way they're just flying right by. And they love to get up in our bow because there's a vacuum created in the bow wave, and they kind of get pulled or surfed along. So in Stevens Passage, there's a great chance to see Dall porpoise as well. And we get killer whales usually about once a month. And everybody goes nuts because they're the top predator of the sea. Dorsal fin on the male is 6 feet tall, like a dagger board. And they just got swag because they know that they rule the roost. Breathe the fresh air. And it's probably the freshest air on the planet because, as the clients will see, there's very little industry in these small, tiny little Alaska towns, very little pollution. And if it's a clear morning, you can literally see 100 miles in every direction. You got snow-capped mountains. There's going to be termination dust. When you guys come September 3rd, that means the termination or end of summer. It looks like somebody took a can of powdered sugar and sprinkled all the highest peaks. So you're going to have fresh snowfall. You get the sunrise. You get the wildlife that morning. You get that, we call it champagne air. You can get drunk or giddy just breathing all that pure oxygen, So that is a magical morning on your way to Juneau. And then usually there's another program in the theater. You can go catch. The ship usually ties up at the Juneau dock at about 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock. Just, you'll check your Princess Patter. And it's worth also seeing that last half hour or so, because the ship will go up the narrow Gastineau Channel, and you can see how some of the natives live in their waterfront houses that the giant cruise ship is going by. And it's always exciting to see how they maneuver that giant ship and put it right against the dock. Which happens about 12:30, 1 o'clock. So that would be the Monday morning, is not to be missed. Don't sleep in, because Stevens Passage is magic with wildlife, sunrise, fresh snowfall, the peaks. And there's 10,000 islands along coastal Alaska. And that morning, Monday morning, you're going to see probably over 100 different islands, everything from gumball shape with 6 trees on an island to these giant jigsaw shapes. So you're right in the thick of the Inside Passage after being at sea the day before, and it's absolutely magnificent to sail into Juneau.
Well, and you always say you can sleep when you're dead, right?
That's right.
So get up out of bed, get out there. Even if you partied the night before, get up and don't miss a thing.
And the cruise ship has wonderful amenities, but there was a cruise director I worked with about 4 or 5 years ago, and she was one of the female cruise directors. And, it's not heavy lifting. It's putting on a party every week. So there should be more women that are CDs or cruise directors. And Sammy actually lived in Juneau. So when we pulled into Juneau, she would go home to her apartment on Douglas Island. She was the coolest chick, really nice. And when she did the welcome board show the very first night in the theater, she'd say, you guys, we offer you many, many things, but we want you to do something that you haven't done before. Stretch your horizons. On the edge of your comfort zone is where life truly begins. So try something new. Don't be afraid to be foolish. You're never going to see these people again. Run naked down the hallway. Get everybody to kind of get out of that box of, okay, I'm just going to do this or that I do at home, what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
Try something different and new. And that's what I love about Alaska is it constantly stretches you. It constantly just opens up your mind in like totally new ways you never even thought about.
And that's true. And I mean, there's so many excursions that are offered. There's so many things you can do once we hit port. I want to go back to what you said. One of my favorite things to do is to watch them. We always stay in a forward cabin on the port side because I love watching them bring that big ship into port. And they do it so gently that it's just amazing to watch. In fact, I videotaped when we came into Ketchikan because I wanted people to see what it's like to bring in a big ship like that and not even feel a bump.
And, for your clients, and many might be first-time cruisers, you're going to be on a cruise ship that is 3 football fields long. It's over 900 feet, and it goes up 17 to 18 decks. So that's almost 200 feet up, deck-wise. And 20 years ago, a ship would come and stop near the dock, and a tugboat or 2 tugboats would come out, and they would push the ship sideways against these big rubber tire bumpers, and then they would tie up to the dock. But now all these modern cruise ships have something I want in my car for parallel parking. Is they have thrusters. They have these engines on the sides of the ship so the captain can stop the ship, no tugboats, and he goes sideways with these thrusters, whoop, right again, 3 football fields long.
Yeah.
And just squeezes that ship right there with those side thrusters.
Amazing. Yeah. So now we're in port. They've sidled it up right against that dock. And now we're ready to get off. What should we be doing? What should we be seeing? What are some things we can do? I know you mentioned the tram. It is ultimately the must-do thing. I love the restaurant at the top, food piled high. Well, we can talk about that at the end. I digress. And plus, I had a local beer. So you gotta experience the local, I guess, cuisine, experience, culture. So tell us about what we're going to see.
Well, one thing to consider right from the beginning, maximize every minute because we have limited time in each of the ports. But it's quite a bit of time because we get into Juneau about 12:30. Do not leave until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So some of the biggest highlight things to do. Number one, I hear from the passengers as being most popular. Take the bus out to see Mendenhall Glacier. Mm-hmm. And it's probably, or you can go in a cab as well, but it's about a 30-minute ride from the cruise ship. They let you out. There's a visitor center, and there's the white ice, and there's a lake in front. And the lake usually has sapphire blue icebergs. Mm-hmm. And for many people, this is the first time they've seen a glacier or maybe an iceberg. And it's absolutely stunning. And then you have to take about 45 minutes. And they give you free time during the tour. At the visitor center, there's a pole that has little wooden signs for different trails. Take the Nugget, just remember Gold Nugget Falls Trail. Anybody can do it. I wouldn't even call it a hike, I'd call it a walk. Mm-hmm. Because it's flat. There's benches along the way in case a grandparent might want to sit down and rest for a little bit. It's a flat walk, just a couple little dipsy-doos, but it leads you to Nugget Falls, a waterfall that is absolutely gushing. People look as tiny as ants at the bottom of that waterfall. And if the tide is out in the lake, which is ocean fed, there's a peninsula of land that emerges. Walk out on the end of that peninsula, give your phone or camera to somebody that's in front of you, put it on panoramic. They can take your family, the glacier behind you, and the waterfall all in one picture. So you've got H2O in two forms, frozen and moving rapidly. So that's kind of a little photo tip you can do out there at Nugget Falls. So Mendenhall Glacier is a must. And I think the buses go out there maybe 2 or 3 times during the 10 hours. Another thing, especially if the weather is clear, where we dock in Juneau, look up if you get a little bit of lunch, maybe before you're getting off the ship, and you'll see a tram cable with a terminal on top and tram cars every 2 minutes zipping up that cable. Jump in, and what you do is you get off the ship, don't go to where the buses and the people are, make the first left on a wooden boardwalk that hugs the harbor, and you'll walk maybe 200 yards, and there's the tram terminal. And you can't miss it just by eye checking where the cable comes down to. You can buy your ticket there, go up. Another little tip, if it is busy, they'll try to almost Tokyo subway pack you in, you know, not pushing you, but putting as many people in as safely. Don't get trapped in the middle inside the tram car. Have your camera right here and go on either side to where the bubble windows are. Because what the tram does is it skims the treetops, and passengers have come down and showed me bald eagle pictures with the face filling the frame that they shot out the tram window as the tram one wasn't by. Because the eagles aren't scared. The tram doesn't make any noise, and you might get these amazing pictures. So just a little bit more about photography before the other tours. The wilderness and the towns are infiltrated. The wilderness infiltrates the towns. A lot of times, if you live in the lower 48, you got to drive an hour to go to a parkland or see some animals. Alaska, the towns are there on loan because it's really the animals' land and territory. So when you go down that gangway, have your camera ready, because there can be bald eagles in the treetops above the sidewalk that people walk into Juneau. There can be a whale spouting right in the harbor. There was a black bear that walked right through the downtown and spooked everybody. And I thought I was going to push open the swinging doors at the Red Dog Saloon. So you can get these amazing wildlife pictures in the places you least expect. So that's one thing to do, is have that camera like ready to go and have your head on a swivel as well, you know. So Mendenhall Glacier, I would say, be a great tour. The tram, zip up there on a clear day. When you get off the tram, there's a viewing platform. If anybody's afraid of heights, you're still good because you got lots of protection around you. But oh my goodness, all your pictures will look like you took them out of an airplane, because you're going to be 2,000 feet up on Mount Roberts, and the drop off, it's just sweeping. And you can get a view on the viewing platform. If you look south on a clear day, you can see about halfway to Seattle down the Gastineau Channel. Cruise ship looks like a little toy boat from up above. So it's a great place, without being in an airplane, to take aerial pictures when you get off the tram. And then if you want to get a little stroll in, there's a great hike. It's about a quarter mile, and it's to an object called Father Brown's Cross. A priest carried this wooden cross on his back during Lent or Easter time up to the top of Mount Roberts. And it's in the ground now, and it's a beautiful wooden cross, very simple. But go to Father Brown's Cross. It's marked on all of the trail arrows. It's just slightly uphill. And to the south or left of the cross itself, you can put the cross in the picture or you can leave it out. There's a flat plateau, Instagram worthy. I mean, just get your family, stand on that plateau. Again, flip your camera to another hiker. Oh my God, you got the whole world of that fjord open and the evergreen mountains on both sides of the water. It's a great photo place up there. Come back down. Great cafe, as you mentioned, and some of the best Alaskan beer. The Alaskan Amber is my favorite. Did you have the Amber when you guys were there?
I did, because I want to live. I mean, when we go, I want to taste the culture.
Right.
And of course, I'm allergic to seafood, so I can't have any seafood. But we watched an order of fish and chips go by, and I swear that was a pound of fish that went
Right.
by. It was incredible. I had the turkey chili, and it was the best chili I've ever had. I
Right.
know it was odd, but I don't eat seafood. So, and of course, then and the two guys I met were transplants. The two bartenders, one was from
Right.
New York, one was from South Carolina. Both lived in a little community on the backside of Mendenhall Glacier.
Wow.
So they were sharing about their views. So they said, yeah. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And so I asked him, I said, well, what do you do here in the winter? And they said, we paddleboard, we do. I said, what? Isn't there snow? They said, yeah, but the water doesn't, there's snow up top and there's water down below, and you can have the best of all seasons.
Right. It's a maritime climate.
Yeah.
And that's what often happens is somebody goes to Alaska from New York or, an urban area. Los Angeles is another place, and they never go home.
Yeah.
Because they are so taken with the beauty and the freedom and just the wildlife being around and all that. But what's great too about the tram is you can try the Alaska beer. There's a brewery in Juneau, and they make you can get the sampler. When it's a little bit bigger in a shot glass of the 8 to 10 different beers available. You might be rocking the tram on the way down, but and they have great seafood, as you mentioned. And one thing about the seafood, nothing in Alaska is frozen fish or fresh frozen, whatever that means.
Yeah.
The freezer is the ocean, because the water up there is 40 to 50 degrees. So when you pull a lingcod, a salmon, out of the water, crab, it's got the healthiest oil for our hearts as well, omega-3, because cold water fish produces the most omega-3 oil. So it's not only tasty, but it's so healthy for us. And there's a restaurant in Juneau. We can do restaurants in a little bit, but the commercial fishermen bring their catches right into the kitchen of the Twisted Fish restaurant. Now, the tram is owned by the Tlingit Native people. So you're getting, your tram operator will have black hair that looks blue in the sunlight. They'll have the epicanthic eye fold, which traces to Mongolia to keep dust out of the eyes from the high steps. And they will give you a talk about, one car is called the Eagle, the other car is called the Raven. Those are the two clans of the Tlingit people. So it's really cool to learn about their culture on the tram ride up and down. They have a great movie theater there where they play a film about their culture. The waitresses and waiters, a lot of times, are natives as well. So it's really a cultural experience up there as well. But the tram is not to be missed.
No.
And what the great thing about Juneau being there for 10 hours, you can do more than one tour.
Mm-hmm.
You could do 2, maybe even 3, if you really, pack it in together.
So whale watching. So let's talk, because you do have a couple others that you think are great that you've been on in Juneau.
Okay, Monday morning, we mentioned 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., Stevens Passage from the cruise ship, seeing whales. But there is a permanent population of humpback whales and killer whales, or orcas, in a body of water called Auk Bay, A-U-K, and it's just around the corner from downtown Juneau. You go out on a jet boat, maybe holding 25, 30 people at the most. Whenever Alaska Airlines takes off from the Juneau airport, they radio down to the boats with the whale positions that they see from the air. They have a money back guarantee on those whale boats. They will give your money back if you don't see a whale. They've never refunded in at least 12 years.
Wow.
That's how many whales there are. And when you guys are there, the 3rd through the 10th of September, the humpback whales are going to be bubble netting. And that is an amazing thing to photograph or see. A pod or family group of humpbacks underwater surround a group of herring. There'll be thousands of 8-inch silver flashing fish. They surround the fish, and then with their blowholes, they blow bubbles. they make a bubble net. And as these bubbles rise, they get bigger and bigger. They almost look solid. The fish are afraid. They ball up together. They're afraid to swim out through the bubbles. And then how do the whales know? This is a learned behavior. They have to teach each other. There's one whale that's like an opera singer. It will blast the fish with high-pitched sound that deflates their air bladders. So all the fish float upwards through the bubble curtain to the surface. The whales come with their mouths open. And you can film all this from these small boats.
Wow.
And sometimes, every once in a while, the humpback whales will push the herring against the side of a whale boat. And there was an 87-year-old man 2 summers ago that said, Mike, if I would have slipped, I would have been Jonah in that whale's mouth. That's how close that sucker was. So the whale tour is absolutely magical. There's only 2 places in the world where the humpback whales will bubble nut, Alaska, and they've also been seen doing it off of Antarctica. But
wow.
Totally magical. And one other thing to keep in mind, if you do the whale tour, and you have your camera ready, there's a saying in Alaska, birds above, fish below. So if you see seagulls, herring gulls going crazy, squawking, flying in tight circles, dipping into the water, zoom your camera, because that means the herring are coming up with the whales underneath them with their mouths open. So the birds will be a good tip-off or preview showing you birds above, fish below.
Wow. So now we're hungry. What places should we go? I know you talked about the Red Door Saloon, and we heard a little bit about that. So tell me more about where to eat, places to see when we're on land, and have some extra time.
4 places.
Okay.
Number 1, the one you mentioned, Red Dog Saloon. It's very touristy, and it's very hard to get in there because it's so popular, but you got to try, because the Red Dog Saloon has been there over 100 years. It's an Alaska landmark. In fact, Governor Sarah Palin used to leave the mansion up the hill, the governor's mansion. She'd come down there and drink with the tourists. She was just like Annie Oakley. I mean, love to have fun. But all of Alaska's history, memorabilia, it's all pinned up on the walls, sawdust floors, swinging wooden doors, honky-tonk piano player, and they have the biggest hamburger in the world.
Wow.
I swear it takes 4 people to eat it. And one person can eat the whole thing, you get like a round of beers sent to your table. So. But the Red Dog is fun just to go in there for the experience. And one little tip for your clients, do you remember that old Kenny Rogers song? My dad used to sing it all the time. It was called Lucille. You find time to leave me, Lucille. It's about a woman who left her husband and the children to be sharecroppers, and she ran off with another man. Well, have a couple beers first. Ask the honky-tonk piano player to play Lucille, and listen to the bartenders and waitresses sing the chorus, which is their opinion of Lucille.
Oh.
It's a hard R pushing an X rated.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh.
Hop into the Red Dog, at least have a beer, maybe a half hour. If you're hungry and really want to have dinner or a good meal, 3 choices. Number 1, Tracy's Crab Shack. And these restaurants, these next 3, are right along the harbor where the ship is docked. So Tracy is a local Juneau gal. She started a little hole-in-the-wall restaurant about 10 years ago with 3 tables. I don't know if people like king crab or not. Oh my God. This place is as big as a palace. And there's big picnic tables in there that probably seat a couple hundred people. Crab legs as long as your arm.
Wow.
And, Dungeness crab, you got to do a lot of work to get a little bit of meat, a lot of cracking. But these crab legs are so big that when you crack them open, there are steaks, there are fillets of succulent white crab meat. So get a basket of king crab legs. And again, try an Alaskan Amber or another local beer. Oh, I'm getting hungry talking about it. Unbelievable. So that's Tracy's. And then next door to Tracy's, about a 5-minute walk away, going back toward the ship, is a restaurant. It's actually a really good grill called the Twisted Fish. And this is where you will see the commercial fishermen offloading big slabs of halibut, salmon. It goes right into the kitchen of the Twisted Fish. And I swear I had a piece of salmon in there one day. It hit my plate and it was still twitching around. That's how. So if you want like the whole array of all different seafood, and it's a beautiful like blonde wood decor inside, you can sit outside on the outer deck. Twisted Fish is great. Tracy's Crab Shack is one in a lifetime experience. They have those king crab legs. And then if you want just tasty pub grub, and if you happen to be a pilot or a fan of flight, past, like, here's Twisted Fish, there's Tracy's Crab Shack in the middle, and then further down the boardwalk is the Hangar Pub. And it has, great pub food, all the seafood as well. But the great thing about the Hangar is they have a little deck outside behind the bar. And you can sit there on a sunny day, and all the float planes are taking off and landing right below you. And you can see all the cruise ship stock, and you can look all the way down the guest house. So if you want to get a bite of food with an amazing view, the Hangar Pub would be recommended.
Perfect.
And like all the bush pilots, their pictures and stories are up on the wall. So if you have an uncle or anybody in your group who's interested in, bush pilots or the flying up there, that's a place to go.
Man, Juneau sounds amazing, and you're making it so I can't wait to get back. We just had the best time.
Where did you guys eat when you were there? On the ship, or did you eat
No,
off?
we ate at the restaurant up at the top of Mount Roberts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, yes, your food is all included and all that stuff on the ship, and they do have great food. Don't get me wrong, but part of the experience, like you said, is to get out and enjoy other things and to meet other people. And I wouldn't have met those two guys, the two bartenders, I wouldn't have had the great food. I mean, you have to have the experience. Fries the size of my hand, my fist, you just, and more than anything is the artistry.
Yes.
I fell in love. You can't leave Alaska without a totem pole. You don't have to have a big one. We got a little one, but you need it. We went into a great shop. We made sure it was authentic. We made sure it was made by somebody that lives local. There's just so many things. I mean, you just got to get the artistry.
One thing before I lose the thought to be careful of, and I go into some stores in the ports and I shake my finger at them, because what they do is they take pictures out of native art books, send them to Bali, Cambodia, to carve totem poles or masts. They're made out of balsa wood, not red cedar, which is local. Don't get fooled. And they charge the same high price for some knockoff thing that they're paying people in a sweatshop to do. So the way you can tell is on the bottom of, let's say, a soapstone carving, or the inside of a mask, or the bottom of a totem pole. Oftentimes there's a little sticker of a polar bear and her cub. It says made in Alaska. But make sure what you're getting is authentic, because in all honesty, there's a lot of stores up there that just, farm it out. And to the untrained eye, for people that are visiting the first time that don't know the difference, you really want to be careful. One thing I have to say about the beer, it's been winning many blue ribbons across the United States at the tasting contest. And the secret is the Alaskan breweries in Juneau and Skagway, beer is water. So they take the water from the melting glaciers. They take their water from the waterfalls. So you're drinking the purest, most oxygenated water that goes into the beer. In the Alaskan Amber, which is the #1 seller and the mainstay, the recipe was started over 100 years ago. The Klondike Gold Rush miners were drinking amber beer, and they have not changed that recipe one bit since 1897. So what you're drinking is history as well. that connection.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, it's been a great visit to Juneau, but we're going to stop here because our next stop on this is going to be Skagway. And Skagway, we have the longest time in, so I want to give you the longest time to chat about what we can do in Skagway. So hang tight. We're going to be back. Michael's joining us again, and he's going to talk to us about Skagway. He's got something special to share with Skagway because we're going to have plenty of time to get a lot of things done. So stick with us. We'll be back shortly.